Joint air attacks initiated by Israel and the United States on February 28, 2026, marked the start of a war against Iran. The stated goals of this conflict were the destruction of Iran's missile program and regime change. In retaliation, Iran launched a missile and drone strikes targeting Israel, U.S. bases, and U.S. regional allies. The current conflict is clearly not centered on nuclear weapons. The Obama administration had previously reached an agreement with Iran. Sanctions would be lifted in exchange for Iran halting uranium enrichment for weapons use. The Trump administration terminated this deal during its first term, labeling it as weak. The following breakdown of negotiations in June 2025, the United States, under the Trump administration, launched Operation Midnight Hammer. This series of airstrikes targeted Iranian nuclear and military installations, causing significant damage to key sites, including Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. Iran retaliated by striking the U.S. airbase in Qatar. The Trump administration declared the operation a success, asserting that it had dismantled Iran's nuclear weapons program. This successful termination further discredits the idea that the current conflict is fundamentally about Iranian missiles. The part of the operation to achieve regime change in Iran was not as straightforward as the U.S. sanctioned, though legally dubious, kidnapping of former President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. The joint U.S. and Israeli assassination strike that killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, also eliminated the entire line of succession. This is significant because it left Iran with an immediate power vacuum that needs to be filled. In accordance with the law of the Islamic Republic, a temporary three-person leadership council has taken on the supreme leader's duties. This council consists of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, head of the judiciary, and former intelligence minister Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei, and Ayatollah Alireza Arafi, who heads Iran's seminaries. Ali Larijani, the National Security Council Secretary and top advisor to the assassinated leader, is also expected to play a crucial role. Following the U.S.-Israeli airstrikes, Larijani publicly stated on social media that Iran would refuse negotiations with U.S. President Donald Trump, whom he accused of having delusional ambitions. Despite Trump's social media pronouncements about wanting to personally select the new Iranian leader, mirroring the recent installation of a U.S. sympathetic president in Venezuela, Iran will use an 88-member panel known as the Assembly of Experts to decide on the successor. This panel is composed of Shia clerics whose candidacy must first be approved by Iran's constitutional watchdog. Ayatollah Ahmad Khatami, a member of the assembly, informed state TV that candidates have been identified, though he did not name them publicly. Iranian law mandates that the selection process must be completed as quickly as possible, and the decision is believed to be imminent. However, the announcement may be delayed until the assembly can ensure the new supreme leader is secured as much as possible from future enemy attacks, especially since Israel has vowed to hunt down whoever is chosen. While it is important to note that the current reasoning for the current war in Iran is fluid and changes depending on who and when you ask, assuming the most common reasoning for most modern wars is what the U.S. will settle on, I will go with regime change. The Trump administration missed 5 key nonviolent opportunities to weaken the Iranian regime. Trump eliminated Radio Free Europe. This American-funded radio service broadcasted alternative viewpoints globally, acting as a counter-propaganda to state narratives. Its funding was cut, ending the program. Trump cut U.S. aid, a program that provided vital assistance to developing nations, saving millions of lives and consequently generating goodwill allies and friends for the U.S. worldwide. This program was terminated. Trump's xenophobic nationalist agenda hurt international education. The U.S. historically leveraged its superior education system by welcoming future leaders to its universities, building powerful connections, and fostering soft power. The Trump administration complicated the visa process significantly and reportedly used ICE to arrest foreign students for protected speech, squandering this influential asset. Trump's excessive immigration policies alienate expatriates. Welcoming people from totalitarian regimes creates communities invested in ending those regimes. These groups are valuable resources for intelligence and academic insight into their home countries, a resource that is now neglected. Trump and Hegseth ignored the option of targeted cyber attacks. Measures like the Stuxnet virus successfully crippled Iran's nuclear program without causing collateral damage, proving the effectiveness of targeted non-lethal cyber operations. This was particularly ironic given how Trump used this as a key point in his 2016 campaign run. While military intervention may sometimes be unavoidable when all other options are exhausted or risks are high, responsible regime change requires a comprehensive multilateral approach involving a committed ground invasion, thousands of troops, and hundreds of diplomats dedicated to rebuilding the government. Despite intentions of safety, the key U.S. missile interceptor radar bases in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have been struck. Notably, the radar system for an American Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD, missile battery in Jordan was reportedly destroyed in the initial days of the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran. This system, built by Raytheon at a cost exceeding $500 million to U.S. taxpayers, was specifically installed in U.S.-aligned Middle Eastern nations as a defense against Iranian threats. Its purpose was to safeguard American personnel, strategic infrastructure, and regional allies from potential Iranian ballistic missile and drone attacks. This deployment was part of a broader, intensified effort to reinforce missile defense coverage and support Israel following Iranian attacks, yet sites themselves were hit. The ongoing conflict in Iran, reportedly instigated by Israel and enabled by the Trump administration to fulfill a mission of ushering in the biblical end times, or Armageddon, has escalated. This is a departure from previous administrations that resisted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's pressure for war. Trump, in contrast, readily agreed in efforts to appease authoritarian leaders. The war movement faced domestic protests when Brian McGinnis, a Raleigh firefighter, Marine veteran, and Green Party U.S. Senate candidate from North Carolina, disrupted a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on March 4, 2026. Acting as a true patriot, McGinnis spoke out and began shouting objections to the U.S. move toward war with Iran in support of Israel. He could be heard yelling, "No one wants to fight for Israel," as police officers dragged him away. Capitol Police quickly moved to restrain and escort McGinnis out of the chamber after he refused to stop speaking. He was later arrested on charges including assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, and unlawful demonstration. During his removal, footage shows McGinnis holding onto a doorway frame as multiple officers struggled to pull him away. Senator Tim Sheehy, a Republican of Montana, a committee member, former Navy SEAL, and bootlicking scumbag, left his seat to physically assist officers, grabbing McGinnis as they tried to free his arm and carry him out. Capitol Police later claimed McGinnis got his own arm stuck in a door, to resist our officers and force his way back into the hearing room, and reported that officers sustained minor injuries. McGinnis allegedly suffered a broken arm during the struggle. The timing of this new war warrants scrutiny. The Department of Justice released previously withheld documents from the Jeffrey Epstein files on March 6, 2026, which included sexual assault allegations against President Donald Trump. Consequently, some headlines have dubbed the conflict Operation Epstein Distraction. This isn't at all surprising that this correlation has been publicly considered. And it is entirely possible that Trump was aware of the DOJ's release timeline. Only history will know if this is true. As of the recording, the American public is already experiencing financial fallout from the conflict, with fuel prices now surpassing $3 per gallon. This economic strain is projected to intensify due to Iran's leverage over the Strait of Hormuz in response to joint U.S.-Israeli military actions. Iran has declared restrictions on vessels affiliated with the United States, Israel, and European partners. This action has led to a notable, though not complete, interruption of this crucial energy transit point, responsible for 20 million barrels per day, prompting the U.S. Navy to contemplate providing escorts. This is further exacerbated by the lack of planning, leading to the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve being depleted. A major consequence of such an attack is the inevitable necessity of a ground war to manage the fallout. This is deeply complicated by the sheer number of troops Iran and its allies could mobilize in their defense. The U.S. military is already strained with ongoing deployments, including the occupation of Venezuela. Furthermore, securing allied troop contributions for what promises to be a prolonged ground conflict is highly uncertain. The simultaneous loss of our radar detection and communication systems would create an opening, potentially encouraging actors to enter the region. These actors could initiate new conflicts, either for conquest or simply to deplete U.S. economic resources through easily provoked battles. The sheer incompetence and lack of foresight displayed in handling this uncalled for conflict is staggering. The explicit instruction to our embassy diplomats and staff to not rely on the U.S. for evacuation is a glaring sign of this failure. This suggests a complete breakdown in necessary planning, the kind of failure only achievable when crucial authority and decision-making roles are occupied by unqualified sycophants. In the Doctor Who episode, The Zygon Inversion, Peter Capaldi, as the 12th Doctor, delivered a powerful and iconic speech on the nature of war. He declared, "It's always the same. When you fire that first shot, no matter how right you feel, you have no idea who's going to die. You don't know whose children are going to scream and burn. How many hearts will be broken? How many lives shattered? How much blood will spill until everybody does what they were always going to have to do from the very beginning? Sit down and talk. Listen to me. Listen. I just want you to think. Do you know what thinking is? It's just a fancy word for changing your mind." Consider this final point. Doesn't the 95% drop in Google searches for the Epstein files coinciding with Trump's bombing of Iran suggest a significant shift in public attention? That's all for this week. Until next time, remember, silence is compliance. Your voice is vital. Stand up, speak out, strike back. They don't know what they started. If you appreciate this content, please like, share, and subscribe. For updates, ring the bell. Your support truly helps the channel.